So CMiC is a construction ERP platform, right? So anytime that you're building, marketing, selling any kind of platform, your integration strategy is almost as important as the core product itself, right? To call yourself a platform, you need to be flexible and encouraging of a really healthy partner ecosystem to complement the platform, right? So if we look at some examples of that, so construction ERP, we cover payroll, accounting, asset management, job costs or budgeting, we call it project controls, document control, and a number of other things. The chances of a single customer wanting to do all of those things exactly how we built them in one platform all the time is pretty low, right? We most of the time we'll see customers want to do 75 to 80% of those workflows inside the platform, but it's very important that when they have a certain department or a certain group in their organization that wants to go use product XYZ, that we have an ecosystem that allows that partner to write to our API and put that data in our platform, right? We have a lot of customers that will continue to use CMiC as the main repository for all of that data, but they might choose to edge that data from another screen, right? That other screen might be another product. So if you're going to be an ERP platform, you absolutely have to have a really strong partner ecosystem, and it needs to be very convenient for those partners to onboard and for our customers to build, all kinds of bespoke integrations as they need to, right? So our strategy has very much been that we're going to offer a comprehensive construction ERP, and it's going to have all the major modules that you would expect. And we would love it if everyone used the whole thing because they're going to get the most value out of the system. But there are going to be those scenarios that when you're going across an entire organization, your HR team might want to have some kind of an applicant to hire product that they think is really great, but they ultimately want to get that employee into CMiC. So it's not to take away from our platform to go use another HR product, because ultimately they're getting into CMiC as an employee, and that's what's important, right? So we want to build a partner ecosystem so that that product can easily write to our platform using our APIs, then that customer is able to use the vast majority of CMiC, but for those specific workflows or that specific process, they're going to be able to use the product they want to, but ultimately get the data in CMiC. And at the end of the day, really what I've kind of said in a lot of different presentations or these types of questions is that CMiC is primarily in the data business, right? Nobody is using our accounts payable screen or our maintain company screen because it's the best maintain company screen that they've ever seen. They're using it because ultimately by putting that data in the system, it connects high quality data across the entire ecosystem, and it allows them to ultimately get the most value out of the platform because they're putting all that data into one system and they can easily report on that data. So when it comes to integrations, we want as many integration partners as we can get, because it means they're putting that data in the platform, which ultimately makes the system more valuable because we are in the data business as an ERP. So another example of like a really good use case, we just talked about, an employee onboarding program, right? So it's very common that HR teams, they want to use different products for different reasons. So that's great. But as long as they're bringing that employee record into CMiC so that payroll can run, so that job costs can run, we're good, right? And that makes total sense. And we see that all the time. And that would be a very successful integration. We have other scenarios where we have customers where, they have their own customers, or in construction it's called an owner, right? And a lot of times an owner is going to mandate that you're going to use my system, right? If you want my project, you want my job, you're going to use my system. So that system might be, product XYZ, doesn't matter what it is, but there's a use case right there that even if that customer is loving using CMiC and they think it's a great platform, they think it's awesome, but they want to get that job with that owner that says go use product X, well, they need a path to do that as well, right? And they need to make sure that that data is going to get into CMiC, because when that project finishes, the data is the most valuable part of that project, right? When it's all done. So we need to pull that back in the product. So we also really specialize on integrations with even competitive products to some extent, right? Because of those scenarios where if the owner says to use it, they're going to take that job for that, $4 or $5 billion hospital, whatever it is. They're going to make sure that they want to bring that in. So we need to make it as convenient as possible for them to do that, right? So there's a lot of different reasons for it, but it doesn't always have to be, a complementary feature. It could even be a competitive feature. And that's okay, right? And that's really the sign of a true platform that you see with, all the large players that are out there, is that even as a competitor, we still want to make sure that it's a healthy ecosystem for them to build integrations into us or us to them, because the customer ultimately needs to use both products. And we want to make sure they stay in the platform, right? Because otherwise they'd be motivated to go to do something different because, I don't want to enter the data twice. So maybe I'll go use this product that this owner says I have to go use. And that's what we want to avoid. We want to make sure it's convenient for them, even if they're being asked to use another product, which is pretty common in construction. Yeah. Again, it's another big topic, right? It's a very easy thing to say, we have an open API. Okay, the discussion isn't over, right? Because just because you have an API doesn't mean that you have connected to other partners and you've built integrations. And that's an important distinction, right? A lot of companies say, we have an open API, everything's great. The important detail is we have an open API and we have either facilitated or built ourselves these integrations with these partners, right? So at CMiC, we have kind of two categories. We call one a CMiC built integration, right? These are integrations that, for the partner that we're working with, they may not have any business reason to build this integration, but we do, right? Then that's usually in the competitor space, right? They might be a competitor to CMiC, but we have enough customers that need to use that product for whatever reason. So we are going to strategically invest in writing that integration. There's other scenarios where we have a partner built integration where those partners are smaller companies and they want access to CMiC's customer base, right? CMiC has a very, very healthy market share inside North America and, expanding globally as well, but they want to access that customer base. So in order to get access to that customer base, they are willing to invest in writing to our API and being part of our partner ecosystem, right? So whether it's a CMiC built integration or a partner built integration, that's going to determine, who is doing the heavy lifting. But it doesn't just start with an API. It's a customer or a partner or even ourselves that are willing to invest the engineering time in writing that integration that makes use of those APIs. When we think about a strategy for APIs and how we think of them, we have a very large product, right? We have probably one of the widest feature sets in the industry as an ERP by its nature, right? So we have everything from a payroll application all the way to a document management product. Whereas in most companies or most scenarios, those are like 2 or 3 different companies that might offer those features. So it's challenging, but we really believe that we need to make sure that our API layer is comprehensive and covers the entire width of the product. And it's an ongoing exercise because every time we work with a new partner or we work with a new customer, they'll tell us, okay, well, we can do X, Y, and Z, but there's something very specific that we'd like to do. It would be good if we could optimize the APIs to make it a little bit easier for us. And in the interest of onboarding that partner or for us building a strategic integration to maybe a competitor, depending on the scenario, we're continuing to invest in those APIs every day. And that's been a huge focus for us as a company, is investing in that foundation, right? Because it's relatively easy to go say, let's go get a bunch of partners, let's go and load up our website with a bunch of logos, but that all is dependent on a really solid API foundation. And that's what we've spent the last couple of years focusing on. And that includes things like, really, really, really high quality documentation. It includes that the APIs are stable and they're always fast. And that we have a support layer in place that when a partner or a customer has a question, they're able to get a real answer, because sometimes these are not easy questions to answer. So going through that exercise across the company to really change the culture so that everyone understands how APIs are used, what the best practices are, and then we get that subject matter expertise just like we would when someone's answering a payroll support question or a financial support question. They're doing so, but they're answering them from our partners or our customers about what APIs to use and how best to take advantage of them. It depends on who you're asking that question to, but as a general rule, it's really 2 things that kind of come to mind. It's really high quality data, right? And that's ultimately why I build any kind of integration, and it's why I select and use an ERP platform, right? Like we talked about earlier, I'm going to select and use an ERP platform so that I have high quality connected data across my entire organization, right? And if I'm going to have a department of my company, right? Maybe it's going to be my sales team, right? And they want to go use another CRM. Okay, that's fine. But ultimately, if we think the value of having a platform and all the investments we made is that the data is going to be high quality and connected across the whole organization, I need to make sure that data gets back into the system. The first business benefit of a high quality integration is that data is going to come back clean into the platform, so that when I go do my reporting, I'm not thinking, oh, okay, well, yeah, we pulled this in from over here, or this is missing because we didn't get these fields from the integration. But when we're thoughtful about the data and the reporting and the analytics that we want to do after the fact, we know what we want to get from the integration, and we're not going to have those issues downstream. Because if we're not capturing the data, we can't go back later and capture the data. You need to capture it at the source. And especially in the world of AI, machine learning, all the fun stuff that people are doing, that is becoming a massive currency that customers are trying to work with. It depends on perspective. So, I mean, the top 3 integration partners, like I said, it changes often, and it's a big time as a perspective of the customer, right? So we have a lot of integration partners that are kind of complementary to CMiC, right? So the things that we don't really do. So we have like an integration with DocuSign as an example, right? We're not in the signing, workflow business. So doing that on something like a subcontract or a change order is a really nice complementary solution to CMiC. We have others, we'll do like a Textura, for example, where with Textura, we have, some request for payment features within CMiC, but they are also complemented very well by all the things that Textura does. So it really depends on, which customer you're speaking to. We have a lot of, success stories with our self-performing customers that are using tools like FieldPoint, whereas FieldPoint is an integration to a service management product. And again, complementary to CMiC, whereas we have some overlapping features, like they have a work order, we have a work order, but we're not going to do a dispatch solution. We're not going to do a lot of the logistical tracking of techs that are out on site at different projects and stuff like that. So it fits really well into different customers depending on what they're looking for. But the top 3 integrations isn't really something you can answer generically for all customers, because the most obscure integration to the masses could be the most important to one of our customers, right? So we put a lot of effort into, we have a comprehensive API layer, so all the data is available, right? So that's the good first start. We invest in strategic CMiC built integrations when we feel that, we're the only ones that are going to invest in building it, but will benefit a lot of our customers. And then the partner built integrations are going to be more open season, where, most of our partners could approach us and they'll build whatever they think is best. And we try to facilitate. And the customers are going to use a combination of those depending on what kind of business they're in, what systems they use, and so forth. But I would answer, to kind of wrap up that question, I would answer it, the 3 most important integrations are likely going to be the 3 most popular products within that company, right? So every company has these products that have just really taken off in their organization, right? Some people love Jira, they love Salesforce, they like a Procore, they like Autodesk, whatever it is. But if you are approaching a new customer or a prospect and you can say, here's a construction ERP, solves all these business problems. Oh, and by the way, those 3 really popular applications that all of your users love, how great would it be if you could tell them that this new ERP that you want to implement and spend all this time and energy implementing, we also can connect those systems that you really love into this system, right? So it's a very strategic thing to have all of these integrations lined up so that when we're implementing a new system, it helps end users get kind of excited to say, here's a product that I love, it's going to complement something else that my company wants to implement. So I mentioned, future roadmap for the integration strategy, it's kind of a combination of a few things. We're continuing to invest in that API layer foundation. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. We are constantly building new features in our organization, and we are working, with all of our engineers, all of our product managers, really the whole company, to transition to an API first mentality. So when we're building out new features, we're thinking about the API from the very beginning, instead of having to catch up later after we've built the new screen or the new system and backfilling with APIs. So all the stuff that we're working on now, we're trying to think about the API from the very beginning. How could it be used? How could it be abused? How can we make sure that people have a good experience when they use it? So that culture and that focus of an API first company is a big push for us. But we also know that there are going to be parts of our system that maybe don't have as deep of an API, and we need to continue to invest. So we're constantly adding new endpoints to our library. We're constantly revising the endpoints that we have, offering new parameters to filter the data differently or to get the data down differently. So it's an ongoing effort. It will never stop. But outside of just improving the API, we're also focusing a lot on what that partner onboarding experience looks like. So when you sign up to be a partner with CMiC, how do you get your sandbox account? Is there data there that you can start playing with? When I have a question, who do I go ask? If I want to learn best practices from other partners, is there some kind of a community that I can connect with to get those questions answered? So that's something that we felt that we've fallen short on a little bit in the past. So now that we have a stronger API foundation that we can lean on, we want to focus a little bit more on that partner journey. How do we get a partner from that first agreement that they signed with us to testing with real data in a sandbox to getting feedback from our customer base and ultimately publishing and being listed on our website as a confirmed app, a registered app. So Construct is a brand that we introduced about 2 years ago. And the idea behind the brand was that we were building all of these applications that sat on top of our construction ERP, right? So we built something called Construct PM, right? Which is a document control, project management, operations-focused app. We built Construct ESS, or employee self-service. So that's where I want to go look at my pay stubs. I want to enter my time, enter vacation requests, things like that. And we felt that these apps weren't really categorized correctly, right? They weren't given the kind of the brand or the grouping that we felt they deserved, because what they were doing is it was the next generation of our user interface. They were super flexible. They ran on all of our different platforms, iOS, Android, and even the web. They worked offline. They looked great. And, they kind of just had just another CMiC app, right? And that's really it's not really true to what they were. They were really representing our direction for our construction ERP. We are always going to have a really comprehensive platform, a construction ERP layer that kind of underpins the whole system. But then there are going to be certain parts of our product that need like a really compelling app that a user would get excited about using, that's going to take advantage of all that data, right? So instead of just saying, oh, I'm logging into my ERP or I'm logging into CMiC, I'm going to the Construct PM app. I'm going to the Construct ESS app as a way to categorize fresh interface, runs everywhere, works offline, but is taking advantage of the wealth of data that's in the construction ERP, right? So it's that brand name to kind of represent that direction. And all of our kind of new and exciting projects or products, most of them are getting that Construct brand, right? So we're working on Construct Image Manager. We've had an image management product for a long time that takes AP invoices, routes them through the organization for approval. Well, we're going to build a brand new application that's got the same styling, design language, and all the flexibility of our Construct apps. We're going to give it that Construct brand, Construct Image Manager, and it'll carry those characteristics. So in a nutshell, it's kind of our next generation of applications. It's our best step forward. It's using our latest design language, it's using some of our latest technology, but it's not a separate product, and that's the important distinction. It's an app that's built on top of that construction ERP layer. And it gets kind of best of both worlds. Compelling app, looks great, people are excited to use it, but all that data goes back into the platform, and ultimately, the company or the organization will benefit as a result.